Hey there, welcome to the Reverie podcast. The following episode is with Philippe from PGB Artisan Cymbals. Philippe is the only independent cymbalsmith based in Canada, and we had a really enjoyable chat about cymbals, about the process of becoming a cymbalsmith, and really we get pretty deep into a lot of fun topics. So if you like cymbals, you'll really like this episode. Without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so here we are with Philippe. And how do you say your last name?
Gauthier, Boudreau. It's
Okay.
French. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Philippe from PGB Artisan Cymbals. I have followed you for a while, actually. I've only run across probably 3 of your cymbals in the wild. Never a cymbal that I was asked to modify, because I don't think any of them need modification. I was always shown your cymbals as like, hey, this is like my prized possession cymbal, and I would play it. I just have loved all the work that I've seen of yours, and super happy to have you on the podcast to talk about cymbals and nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, I've been following for a while too. I followed all your projects, your drums, your percussion, the stacks, and then you started doing cymbals as well. I was pretty impressed with the the whole, I don't know, industry, or I don't know, like you have your hand on like almost all parts of drums, not part of drums, of like drum manufacturing, and like all these cool instruments. So yeah, I was pretty impressed. Maybe to know how you kind of managed to do all of that all at once, and do some podcasts and do some
I'm sure we'll get into it, man. It's I actually just remember when you were talking that I think you reached out, it was probably years ago, about the edges of cymbals. You said, hey, I've got all these. Did that happen? I think that happened probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Maybe.
Yeah, you were like, hey, I've got all these scrap edges of cymbals. You want to have them for, or you want to have them for like little projects. And I think that was my first, I think that might have been my first interaction with cymbal edges like that. And I'd used them for a couple little projects, but that memory just came to my mind. That was probably 2018 or maybe earlier than that. I don't know.
Yeah, all these small edges that I cut off from cymbals.
Yep. Yeah, and then so I've definitely noted your work for a while, and one of the things I have felt every time I've played one of your cymbals, which actually next week I'm going to record an episode with Burke from Bronze Pie.
Yeah.
But he had some of your cymbals last year at the Music City Drum Show in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I felt from playing your stuff is that you have a very you have a great way of dealing with space, with empty space. That's probably something that that's definitely something I struggled with in the beginning, was just wanting to fill up all the space on a cymbal with hammer marks and not really understanding the idea of stretching the material between hammer strikes. And you have this way with your cymbals, I think, of utilizing simplicity in a way that creates really lush sounding cymbals, but they're not overly hammered, overly processed. Yeah. Is that something that what would you say about that? Is that something you do consciously, or?
I mean, it's been a long process, because at first, the only cymbals I was able to make were, hollow cymbals, that are a bit hammered too much. So for a while, for me, that was this sound meant that it was a cymbal that I couldn't control. So I tried to be able to make cymbals to achieve a good shape and good tension with hammering as less as possible. That was kind of a goal for me. So this way I could get my shape early and then really work on the sound, on the texture of the cymbal, instead of always struggling to get the shape. And then once you get the shape, it's already super curved and super hammered, which is, I guess you need to go through that. Mm-hmm. because even if you get the techniques, even if you're taught how to do the cymbal, there's still always new things happening when you hammer the cymbals, and new problems that you need to get around and figure out how to deal with. So yeah, I think so with time I really wanted to be like in full control of the cymbal. So trying to, so hammer as less as possible to get the sound, and then be able to like enter in like modification mode when I
Yeah.
just I'm not too much concentrating on the shape anymore. I'm just trying to concentrate on sound.
It's like you kind of get into, because the first step is always structure. What you always want to get a good structure, and you want to get good tension. And you're right. In the beginning, you're fighting to get that shape and the tension to where you want it. So finally, by the time you get it, it's already so tall that you've really limited what kind of cymbal it can be. And what you're saying is like you start out with a basic amount of work that gets you to a place, and then from there you have freedom. You can obviously take it far and bring it way tall, or you can keep it low, and you can work with having a smooth sound or a complex sound, a dirty sound, and you have all these options. And that's it's interesting to know that that's a very intentional thing for you. That's something that has definitely come across in your work, that anytime I've checked out something that you've put your hand to.
Yeah, I think it was important for me to like be able to go anywhere, like in all kind of directions, and be able to control it. Just because I wanted, I don't know, maybe it's like I think it's important for me to know that like I can not handle, but I'm in control of my craft, and I know,
Yeah.
how to do it. But then also you get more, when you're more in control, then you get all these possible options of sounds, and then it can get kind of hard to know exactly where to go, because I don't know, I hear so many cymbal sounds all the time, and then I'm trying to like figure out exactly what I want. So like right now I'm still in like exploration phase. I feel like it's never really ending, like that kind of work to get like a good sound. I don't know, because it's personal for me, but it's also so personal to other drummers. Like even if I like a cymbal, it doesn't mean other drummers will like it. And then so it's a like an ongoing process to just
Right. It is very much, I mean, because this gets into a little bit of like my backstory, but I started making drums mainly because I didn't think it was possible to make cymbals. I was always, ever since I was probably 11, 12 years old, I've been totally obsessed about cymbals, and drums I was never really interested with. It was just like, just tune it, whatever, I'll play it. But like cymbal sounds, that's where it's at. And the more I've gotten into cymbal making, well, first it was modifying, then making, the more I see the correlation between cymbal making and making music. You listen to people talk about music, and there is no set way to do it. There is no true mastery of music, because like there's always new music that you can explore. There's always different techniques and styles that you can dive into. And that's what's exciting to me about cymbal making, is it is a never ending art form, to where you can go about making a cymbal in 100 different ways at least, and still never get to the end of what it could be. And you're right, there's it's so subjective. There's nothing there's no one metric for a good cymbal or a bad cymbal. Obviously we have our thoughts on good and bad, and we could get into that a little bit, but it's a very artistic art form in that way, which I think is why the people that get into it become obsessed fairly quickly.
Yeah, it can easily be like a pit you just fall into, because for me it was kind of the opposite. I mean, I like drums, but I knew nothing about cymbals before I started doing cymbals. I just knew I wanted to make instruments, because my dad is a recorder maker, like flute, for Baroque and Renaissance music. But I've always been in that kind of space, creative space, and like making instruments and being like working with machines and stuff. And I like the first thing that got me towards cymbals is because I felt like there was no limit to what I could do. I think I wasn't restricted by the industry standards. Like you need to respect like certain sizes to fit the heads. and fit the hardware and stuff like that. So I felt there was like a liberty in cymbal making that was really, I don't know, it really drove me to cymbal making, because I don't know, I wanted that kind of liberty in my work and also, you know, in my music. But it's something that I tend to go towards too, just like having no limits or no no clear like barrier. So so where do I want it to go with this?
Well, here's a question, because you kind of touched on how you got started. So I didn't know your dad is an instrument maker. So you grew up, is that from like very young age, you were always around that kind of manufacturing, hands-on approach to crafting?
When I was like around 12, I started to go to the shop and work a bit, so help just to, I don't know, like put square square pieces of wood into like round shape. So I would just do like some prep just to help out, but also because I loved it. I would put some music on and just work. And I don't know, it's always something I like the environment I liked, but I also like the lifestyle. I saw my dad just, like going to his shop, working, traveling around the world to do some expos, some shows. And you're kind of free with your time also. If you want to take a day off to go skiing or whatever, do bicycle, or just you need to rest sometimes also.
Right.
You can just do it. I don't know, I like the like, not limitless, but like the kind of free lifestyle that came with it also. Like for me, it allows me to do music and do shows, and so it's way easier that way for me. I don't have to like ask for someone if I can take a break, if I can leave for that weekend and then find someone to replace me. I don't know, because I dealt with that in like restoration before I officially started my the cymbal company. I had to like deal with making cymbals, doing shows, and then working in a restaurant. So now I'm like fully like immersed in this life, and I can I can take pretty much all my decision like that. But I think
the freedom the freedom and lifestyle is really, it's great. I mean, it definitely has its downsides, but the freedom to be able to do it requires so much more investment of your whole life, because you never clock in, you never clock out. I had many years, still to this day, well, it'll be 11 o'clock at night and I'm answering emails, or trying to deal with some problem and fixing some issue with supply or whatever it is. So that's the downside of it. But being able to live a more creative life definitely does help on the actual manufacturing side, because you have to stay in a creative space. It's weird with cymbals. I know that big companies have lines and they have the series, and they try to match them as close as possible. But I've modified many cymbals, and I've had a lot that were stamped exactly the same way, and no two are the same. And so the more you try to kind of force those into the box that they can be exactly the same, and you can assembly line them and just kind of churn them out and they'll be exactly the same, is really a misnomer. It's not true. And so obviously if we have series as cymbal makers, we'll try to make them as similarly as possible. But at the end of the day, each one of these pieces is unique and requires a certain artistic headspace to approach it, because you can definitely go in with a piece of metal and have an idea of what exactly you want it to be, but you can't necessarily force that on the piece. It kind of will tell you in some ways what it wants to be as you're working on it. Have you found that to be true?
Because I make some stacks also, and I realize it's a like really different approach of cymbal making. Because when you make stacks, you can do the same process all over again, and will pretty much always sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel it's more like a not like, I don't know, it's more like an in, yeah, I can't find that word, but
The stacks are meant to be choked, so it's like there are going to
yeah,
be differences even with the stack, but you're putting them together. So
yeah,
the overall idea is they're choked
they
and
will
they hit
sound dry, they will sound snappy. But I
right.
feel like the cymbal, even it like, it's hard to just like to say I'll just do like 5 of these the same way, unless you do them at the same time and you do exactly the same process, or that you record everything that you do. Then it feels like every piece you make will be different no matter what, you know, because even if you make the same pattern, you're still hammering, you know, you're still, everything is handmade, so like like
Yeah,
the space between the hammer marks are a bit different, the
yeah,
force you hit with, like the angle of the blank with the anvil. So there's so many like like factors that, you know, that bring some randomness to the
yeah.
process, which is fun, you know, when you try to like control it, it gets easier to like to find your way through this randomness. um but yeah, it's like, I feel like my cymbals are really influenced by how I feel also, like how, like, not necessarily how I feel, but like also like my like where I'm at in my life. Like if I'm stressed, if I'm tired, I'll do cymbals in a completely different way. If I'm like really motivated, or, you know,
Yeah,
it's, you go through phases of like, I
yeah.
don't know, like,
That's a good way of putting it. I think that maybe it's less about saying that the metal will tell you, but more about, you know, where you're at personally will affect the changes, because you can't be the same from one cymbal to the next. You know, because like you said, there's some different things going on in your life. You'll be, you know, sometimes I'll be angry and I'm sitting there like hammering, like, oh, I'm
yeah.
gonna, and that cymbals are gonna turn out differently than when I feel
Mhm.
at peace and at calm and I'm just, you know, taking my time. Um, so maybe it is more about the maker than it is, you know, because I think it is. I try to, as much as I can when I talk to people, try to demystify cymbal making, because it is inherently so mystical. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean? So any way that you can kind of clear, like you said, like you systematize it so you can try to find your way through the chaos in some manner. But I like putting it that way. It's more about the fact that each time you approach the instrument, if it's music or the cymbal, you're going to be bringing something different to it, and you're a human, you're not a robot. So, you know, your arm's going to get tired, and the hammer you're using might be, you might grab a different hammer, and
yeah.
you know, it might be really hot that day, so you're just trying to quickly get your work done so you can get out of the shop. Or there's just a
Yeah,
million different like uh factors that go into each
yeah,
piece, you know.
yeah. Sometimes what I do when I get more confident, you know, there's always these phases when I'm like, okay, I can do any type of symbol I want. You know, like I stop caring for a bit, and
Yes.
I try to get as much chaos as possible, and then get the symbol back together. So I have like a wooden anvil that I use, and I hammer really hard to make like these like dimples, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'll just hammer like crazy like this, and then I'll just hammer without thinking, just like as hard as I can, or just try different stuff, and then I'll try to bring it back after. So like I create chaos, and then I try to make it
Yeah.
sound nice, you know.
You create chaos and then restore order to the
Yeah,
chaos.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't
Yeah.
know. I put myself in like a dangerous situation where I could ruin the blank.
Yeah.
But I found that over time, it rarely happens that
Yeah.
I completely like miss a symbol. So like that feels good to say, but but
Yeah.
before, yeah, it was hard because you could nail like, I don't know, 10 symbols, and then you get really confident, so you just hammer without thinking. But then,
Right.
I don't know, your technique is not good enough, or so you
Yes.
just
Yeah.
make a lot of mistakes, and you don't know how to get back, like
Yeah.
to get the shape back, or
Right. Yeah. And
so.
then you fight a losing battle, and the whole time that profile is just climbing and climbing and climbing, and you're trying to work it out. I had many cymbals in the beginning. I think probably the first 20 or 30 cymbals I made were just really tall cymbals. They kind of all work because you're wrestling, and it's like that. That's kind of the way of like you get into that. The realm of mastery is a lot about controlling chaos and utilizing space. I feel like those are the two things I'm aiming towards nowadays with my work, is trying to be in those two spaces. And yeah, that's what we all hope for, whether it's music or, because everything we say related to music or to cymbal making can apply, I think, in music. And it sounds like I'm interested to know kind of what what kind of music you like, and what do you like to play? Like, what is your artistic voice on the instrument? What is that like for you?
Like, I have like one project, a band where I placed like my high school band, but then we kind of get more serious in it. So we have like, like a booking agency, a label, managers and stuff. Like we have a big team with us, and we do big shows in front of like thousands of people and stuff. So like,
Nice.
trying to like get really serious into music as well. So, but your question was more like in terms of like influence, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, also,
like,
I guess it is what you do, but it's also like kind of artistically, what is your voice on the instrument? Because we've talked a little bit about what your voice as a maker of cymbals.
Yeah.
I feel like they both inform each other. It seems like
I think it's pretty similar. Like, the type of music, like a drumming I play is really simple, like mostly backbeats and like really groovy stuff, but like kind of, more like electronic music, where it's like a loop that loops like I used to listen to a lot of Tony Allen, stuff like that, like more like freaking music, like Afrobeat music like that. So no, it wouldn't necessarily be like as complex, like, like rhythmically or technically, but it's like, I like the idea of just like going forward and like installing a groove, and we would, like just roll through it. And so I play like kind of classic grooves, but I bring in like really like weird sounding cymbals, or like really not trashy. It's not like a word I love, but more like saturated sounds. Like a lot of hammering, because when I play, I take all my like unused cymbals, like the cymbals I can't sell, or the cymbals that are a bit cracked or whatever. That's the one I take and I put in my kit, because I've never made cymbals for me, really. Like I take the leftovers and what so so
I do the same thing, man. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've got drum sets that I take that are just, the shells are warped, and I like drilled a hole in the wrong place, and like that's the kit that I'll make as my personal kit. And I love, in some way, I love that, because I love just working with what you have and working with something that's weird and not. I don't like clean sounds for the most part. There's definitely utility in them, but I kind of like things that almost are broken and need to be fixed, or they're kind of wrong, and so you got to figure out how to make them work for whatever situation you're in. I get that completely.
But I guess it's also what we do as instrument makers. We're always trying to like work with something that is not working, and we work to make it sound good, or same thing with drums. So I guess when you have an instrument that is not really working, it's not so new for us to play with them, or like like deal with that kind of like I don't know, not uncertainty, but like deal with that kind of like
chaos.
Yeah.
That's a great word for it. You said that earlier about like with cymbals that were less processed, fewer hammer marks, and how in the beginning you felt like they were too hard to control, and so you wanted something that was a little bit more controllable. So how have you kind of come back around on I guess dealing with something that's a bit more wild, or making cymbals that have to be, I guess it's really about making cymbals that have to be learned, or they have to be they have to be learned how to play, because they can be a little bit wild, or they can have a little bit more going on in the wash. Is that, how did you kind of come back around from this idea of sort of saturated, heavily hammered cymbals that felt like they were more controlled, but then coming back to this idea of letting there be more stuff going on?
Well, to be honest, I'm not so sure, like, if I'm really satisfied with that sound, like the really open sound. It's like something I really tried to get, but then I realized slowly that it might be lacking some sort of like not definition, but maybe, like some sort of definition was maybe lacking. So I guess it was like an exercise for me to be able to do that, which really helped me to make symphonic cymbals, like orchestral cymbals, which you want to be really open and like have as much like volume as possible. But yeah, I'm slowly getting, like trying to find a middle ground between like oversaturated and too open.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a really abstract concept, it's like abstract sounds, but I'm feeling like I'm getting there slowly, because sometimes I see my old cymbals that I thought I had less control over, and like they're really curved and they sound really good, and then I realized that I was maybe thinking too much about technique and not enough about sound for a while. So it's like try to find a balance between that.
I agree. Because you kind of, you, in the beginning you have to be about technique, and then you kind of want to get to the point where you put it aside, or you just don't think about it as much. I love John Coltrane, and he has this quote about how you have to learn all the notes, learn all the scales, learn all the modes, so that you can stand on the bandstand and forget all of it and just play. And that really is the goal. At least, that's the goal for me. And I think a lot of masters have this way of almost performing in a childlike manner, where it's like they have all the technique, they can play all the craziest stuff, they can play, they are the top of the top, but then they'll get on the bandstand and play something really simple, or something that's that almost feels childlike, and you're really drawn in by that, because there's a level of depth. Like I'm kind of the same as you. As a player, I don't consider myself a very good drummer. I think there's all the chops drummers and the crazy guys that can just shred across the kit, just play nutso stuff. But for me, I'm like in that total Tony Allen camp. Like you just lay down a groove, and it's very repetitive, but there's something about the repetition that builds suspense and tension, and it can be a very I just think that groove is really a lot deeper than most drummers think. I find that younger drummers sound really bored when they're just playing a groove, and then when they get to their solo, they're just like pulling out all their little licks and chops, and then that seems to be what they care about. But then it goes back to like the sax solo or whatever, and they just sound kind of like gone. They're not even there. The groove, the tempo starts going all over the place, and they just sound kind of like super low energy. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I just find a lot of correlation between music and cymbal making. And so that this idea of balance between oversaturated and open, finding something in the middle, that's oftentimes where I'm trying to land with my cymbals as well. It's just, it is about versatility, but it's more about capturing something usable for musical situations.
Working for the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I also work a lot with drummers that come into the shop, because like every drummer has a different approach to music, but they also have a different way of playing technique, and like they use different sticks, and they hear different things as well. Like even if like you know, because sometimes you put like your cymbals in like in videos, so people hear, you know, the same person, like, you know, the same video, you and me can hear different stuff, you know, because we're used to hearing cymbals, but other people, they might be hearing completely different things.
Yeah.
So, but I realize it's the same when playing cymbals. Like people have different ways of like playing cymbals, but hearing them, and like they don't want the same things from their cymbals and from their instruments. So I realize like the further I go in and I try to make cymbals like that I like, I realize it's not so important that like I personally really like the cymbals. It's more like a
Yeah.
matter of making sure they're musical and they're fun to play, more than like liking all the I don't know, like the harmonics of the cymbal and like the complexity of it, because I know like maybe the next drummer who walks in will hate it, but like
Yeah.
the second one after will love it. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's really like a personal instrument. I feel like it's like the most expressive instrument on the drum, maybe, like, you know, because you can tune
Yeah.
your drums in like different ways, and you could put tape, and you can put like a big fat snare drum on your
Right.
drums and stuff like that. But I feel like the cymbals are like I don't know, like they're like the what you put on a cake. Is that
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It gives I think it gives a personality to the music, to the drummer. Like
Right.
the yeah, I feel like it's what can bring like the music alive, or just like m- maybe distance itself from the music. Like I feel
Yes.
like some cymbals will just like step over the music and like not fit in at all.
Right.
And I think,
And
yeah,
some will be lost. Some are just
yeah,
not even there.
yeah,
And you're needing more. So yeah, you're right. It's I agree with that.
yeah. I don't know. It's like, even for me, like even like for a while I was at the research of like the thinnest cymbals, and like trying to
Yeah.
do the nicest jazz rise, like super thin. But then I realized that unless you're really doing jazz in a like an acoustic setup, it's rarely what you need. Like
Yeah.
if you, I don't know, like if you do like bigger shows, and then like you're on a big stage, like you want a bit more meat, you know, or
You
else you,
need it.
like if you play with in-ears, like you will hit your cymbals too hard, and then you'll
Hmm.
eventually just break them, because like they don't give enough power, enough sound. So
Right.
like,
Yeah, that's a huge point. I learned this when I was in school. This is about like a decade ago. Bernard Purdy came to our jazz rehearsal, and for people that don't know, Bernard Purdy is one of the most recorded drummers ever. You know, there's rumors he was on the Beatles. You know, some of the Beatles albums instead of Ringo, but he came into the rehearsal, and I sat behind him as he sat in, or he sat in with the jazz ensemble. I stood right behind him,
yeah,
and it was the weirdest experience of my life to that point, hearing music, because he was playing the cymbals like you would expect someone to play, and then he'd go to do a fill, and it would be this explosion of power and the volume, just like
yeah,
it was wildly different when he would hit the toms, and then he'd come right back to where he was, and it was shocking. And I asked him afterwards, I was like, what were you, I just was like, I didn't know how to ask this question, I probably offended him, but I was like, what were you doing? Like, well, I never heard anyone play it like that. And he's like, well, I'm thinking about how the drum kit as a whole sounds out in front. I'm thinking of 30 feet, 50 feet in front of this kit, and thinking about how the cymbals, they're going to cut, because they're, you know, they're heavier and higher pitched, and the toms are lower pitched and got a lot of mid range. And so if I don't hit those loud enough, they're not going to translate.
yeah.
And that was the first time I got introduced to this idea of kind of mixing yourself behind the kit.
Mhm.
And fast forward to making cymbals, I've learned, you know, because all of us start with the thinnest, jazziest, wobbly, flapping looking thing, we all start there because that's what we think is like the best kind of cymbal. But then you realize that thing doesn't translate. You know, you can't play an outdoor gig with amplified instruments and expect that bell to cut through at all. And so so here I'm interested in this. So with your customers, you know, how do you find a balance between making cymbals that a customer is going to love when they sit behind it, but also a cymbal that's going to translate and do the job? Because I find that those two things to be in conflict oftentimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's always different, you know, because like, you know, every drummer is kind of different, but I try to get as much information as possible about the context of the drummer, you know, like what kind of music he plays or she plays, and what kind of sticks they use, what other cymbals they have in their kit, just to be able to put myself in their shoes when I make the cymbals and when I try the cymbals. So I also sometimes I'll go buy the sticks they use, because, you know, I have a bunch of different sticks, but sometimes they use a completely different things I've never used, and it makes the cymbal sound really different.
Yeah.
So I'll go buy the stick, and that's what I play to feel like how it would sound for them, and then I also try to switch room. So yeah, it's always different. It's always a matter of context, I think. But also I try to listen to what they ask me, what they say. You know, if they say they want a thin cymbal at a certain point, I'll just go with it, you know, because I mean, they'll be happy with it at the end.
Right.
But yeah, I realize also I don't really have a lot of people asking me for heavy cymbals. You know, I think like people that are drawn to like the type of cymbals we do, like, you know, like the more niche cymbal making, they're mostly people who are doing like studios, who want like beautiful, like complex cymbals that fit well in a mix, or people that do jazz, or people that I think it's rarely like people that do like really loud music, because I think there's already like a lot of um, offer for that kind of cymbals, you know, like B8 cymbals, like Paiste Rude, and like even like most of like a lot of Zildjian cymbals are like really powerful, really high pitch, like high volume. So I feel like when people come to see us, like the type of clientele is not, it's not really what they're looking for. I mean, sometimes, but yeah, I feel like what I do mostly fits pretty much all the time what you know, what drummers came in for.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, it is, I think, from a manufacturing standpoint, it's a lot easier to make a heavier cymbal. You know, there's obviously nuance in that discussion, but heavier cymbals can hide tension issues because they just got so much weight on them. So it's like you don't have to necessarily have the tension extremely balanced. But the thinner you get, the more everything that's there is going to become prevalent. It's going to come to the forefront. So those cymbals are a lot. And I think that practical manufacturing reason is why most of the major manufacturers make heavier cymbals. And then obviously with the advent of amplified instruments and, you know, music got louder, everything got louder. Drummers started learning how to play and hit super hard. It makes a lot of big old tree trunks for sticks. And it is interesting. We're seeing this kind of resurgence towards the more organic sounds, both in drums and in cymbals. You see a lot of people, I mean, obviously all the major manufacturers, their highest dollar cymbal is going to be something that they call hand hammered, even if it isn't hand hammered, but they'll call it hand hammered, and then it's also, you know, it's the top dollar thing they have. And it's for people that are looking for something that they can express themselves with a little bit more, because obviously the louder music is just, you know, you just need it to cut. You know, you're not looking for like a depth of sound. You're looking for more of a pointed thing that's just going to get through, you know. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of the guys I talk to that are doing this kind of talk about that. It seems to be the same process we all go on. We start at thin cymbals, and then we go, well, couldn't we make heavy cymbals but with character? And then we go on that journey, and then we kind of come back, and then we're always kind of fighting for this middle, you know, this middle ground of, you know, complexity and nuance and musicality and beauty in something that will also, you know, you could play it on a huge stage like you do, like just in front of thousands of people, and you can play it and it will do what it needs to do, you know. It's I talked to Mangiello the other week about this. I find that I talk to, the more cymbal-smiths I talk to, the more I just feel like I'm talking to myself as far as just like the kind of people that do this is there's so many similarities. And it's called the Reverie podcast. And my goal is to talk to like musicians and kind of everyone and talk to people about drums, but I just get excited about the cymbal conversations because there's just so much there, and there's so little about this whole art form available.
Yeah,
you know,
and we're like 15. I don't know how many we are in the world. Like, you know, like doing like being like working alone or with, you know, like smaller cymbal shops. We're like 15, 20 in the whole world. I'm alone in Canada doing it. So it's a pretty lonely craft. So
it is.
So it's rare that I get to share, you know, like my, you know, like day-to-day stuff that's happening. Then I realize like pretty much everyone goes through the same, you know, it's like the same stages of learning.
It's a lot like, I mean, again, it's a lot like making music. We kind of all, there's these common processes we go through. And I'm interested to know what your thought is on how it's the art form seems to be growing. I don't consider myself at all to be one of the early people doing this. Obviously we had the maestro, you know, Spiz, and then down from him there's like a group of 10 guys, and then down from him there's more, and I definitely jumped on Bettis and a lot of Mats, but I mean, what we're seeing this art form kind of grow, because I think people are realizing it's possible. You know, it's possible to do this, and I'm wondering where you think that growth is going to cap out, and kind of what you think about the industry itself. Like, where is it heading? What do you think of it? Do you think some of it's a little bit garbage and bluster, and, you know, or do you think there's a legit movement happening?
I mean, I started in 2016, and it was really hard to find any information, and then I started to realize slowly that there was other makers, but it was kind of hard to find them. But like over the years, you know, I started my Instagram more as an experiment, just to show my progress, not so much as like establishing myself as a company yet. I was just showing what, you know, my process and my learning process. But then I realized slowly that like a lot of person were interested in the craft, because it was kind of like some people, you know, they were telling me I was doing magic and stuff like that, you know, because it was it was really mystical. It was like this ancient craft that it's kind of impossible to find any information on, and it's secret, because I know Zildjian, you know, they kind of created this enigma around their bronze and like the way they do it. So I think there's that it feels like secretive and like, I don't know, like secret society or something. But basically, you know, it's I don't think it's more complicated than making, I don't know, not, I mean, it's complicated, but like a blacksmith, works, or like someone that makes, car parts or something like, like they work with the same cabinet of tool we do. And it's just that we work with sound as well. So like there's an extra layer of complexity. It's not only about shape, but I think it's interesting. There is still a lot of people asking me to show them how to do it, how to work. So when I was in university, I wrote a document on like the basic of like hammering techniques and lathing techniques and all the different like acoustic characteristics of cymbal making, like of the cymbals. And I sent that to a couple of people, and then told them how to get an anvil, what kind of hammer they would need. But I rarely got some feedback on that. But I felt like there was an enthusiasm toward that, that kind of work. And when I started, I was alone in Canada, and so I felt like I needed to fill like the space, like like create this offer that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So I needed to kind of pave the way, and then I realized like other people were interested. I showed my shop to someone else. I taught him a bit how to hammer, but I think now he's learning with Dave Collingwood in England, which is, I guess he has a more structured way of teaching cymbal making. But
I do the Patreon thing with Dave as well. And Dave would not say that what he does is structured, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, he's kind of like us, where it's just, he deals in a lot of complexity, and it's about taking the complexity and sort of making sense of it, but not at all trying to like do any kind of step-by-step anything. Most of the time when we meet, it's just like we just talk about the most abstract ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about that is I think that if you are the type of person that learns well with abstraction, then Dave's a great guy to go to learn from. But also cymbal making is great because there's a lot of abstraction. And so so you've taught a couple people maybe some basics about this. Have you ever thought about having an apprentice?
Well, I have one now, but it's been like a couple of weeks only.
Okay.
So for now, we only check like lathing, but it was this Tuesday. So we did our first lathing this Tuesday.
You posted a video of it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's who that was. Cool.
Yeah, but it was kind of a hard for me to accept, like to have someone in the shop with me, because it's like such a, I don't know, like it's like you need to be really focused, and it's kind of like a lonely
it's kind of sacred. It's a sacred space, I think, that we have, exactly. That solitude.
Yeah, so it was hard for me to like convince myself that it would be good for me. It would give me a bit of space to think more about like upcoming projects and like what I want to do with the project, with the company. So I thought about like hiring other people, but then there was this guy who's my good friend. We play in a band together. We used to be roommates as well. So we used to like, because before I used to work in my basement. So he was there, he was taking naps like upstairs while I was hammering, he got used to the sound of, of the hammering. Nice. And like me working downstairs and like running around, testing cymbals, playing drums.
Yeah.
So I felt it was a good fit, where I can just like be myself here in the shop and just like work with him kind of in a natural way. I don't feel like I can be like like an employer or something. For me, it's like, it's like this kind of small thing that gets bigger. Yeah. But I like to keep it kind of not organic, but maybe eventually I'll get more employees, I don't know. But for now, I really need to take it like step by step and see how it goes from there.
Yeah, my first employee, literally, it's the same story. Like my roommate, I played in a band with him, and he was really good at woodworking. And so when I was getting into doing more of the stack ring, recycled cymbal thing, I just hired him to come and do the drums because it was I didn't have much time to do that. That's great. He's like my main employee now, but that's funny. That's like the exact same. I'm the same way. I struggle big time with the idea of me as a boss. Because I think artists always have an issue with that because we really do care about this is very generalized, but I think we do care about connection and relationship, and we're not doing this to make money because there's it's like this is not an art form you get into to like make a ton of money. It's very grueling, it's very expensive, it's very difficult. There are plenty of other things you can do to make much more money if that's your goal, but yeah, I struggle with that because obviously as I'm trying to think through what do I want my companies to be, where do I want the limit to be, as far as, because the bigger you get, obviously quality control is the biggest issue. The bigger you get, the more you're having to bring in people to make the stuff, and they're not going to make it with the same level of attention and care as you will, because this is our brainchild, this is our passion. And inherently, I'm just learning. I got to get way better at business. I got to get way better at managing and planning and having difficult conversations, and like adequately training people. Because I just kind of want to say, like, yeah, get in there and just figure it out. It'll be good. Like, I don't really want to teach. I just kind of like I did it myself, so you figure it out.
You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it, but that's obviously not how it works. So that's it. So do you see that as where you would like to go, is sort of have a shop with a few guys and you guys are all making the cymbals, or?
Yeah, maybe a few, maybe like 2, 3 max, I would need to like see how it goes as I go, but maybe I would like to keep the like the making part, like the manufacturing part more to myself, and maybe have other people managing, like more like social media and stuff like that, because like what brought me to cymbal making initially was I like to work with my hands, and I like to, like solve the problems, and like I like getting from, point A to point B, and like, just achieve something, but like with my hands, and, just build the instrument is what I really love. But then I had to learn all the other aspect of the business, and like marketing, and accounting, and like, all the stuff that, and I wasn't really prepared for that. I kind of just jumped into it without thinking, because maybe if I really thought about everything, I wouldn't have done it. I was kind of I was kind of blind, but I did that. It wasn't conscious, but it kind of helped me go through it without panicking.
Yeah. But you by the time you figure it out, you're too deep into it. So you're like, I'm already here.
You have to find a way, because like there's no way I'm going to get another job back in a restaurant, like, or something. Right. For me, this is my life, is gonna work, and I'll find a way, Right. So it's like always evolving, because during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to just concentrate on the company and like work all the time, because I had all the time in the world. I wasn't doing any shows. I was recording an album, but it was, it wasn't like really time consuming. I wasn't leaving the city all the time, or the country. So, but then shows started again, like, a couple of months ago. Yeah. And then I had to like deal with like my two lifestyles coming, like clashing with one another. One is like music and like going out, and I used to do a lot of parties as well, and like, so now I needed to like find a balance between these two lifestyles. And so so like it's always adjusting, but mainly like the business part, I realized I wasn't really aware of all the work I needed to do.
Yeah.
So,
I'm actually currently looking at getting a business coach.
yeah.
And I've had some mentors of mine that have told me just, it's almost as important as having an accountant or, the various things that kind of become necessities as you grow. It's like you kind of need a business coach, someone that has an outside perspective. Because I don't feel like I know what I'm doing at all with the business side of it. I think all I know is like I love making the stuff, and I do as much social media work as I can stand, so that people at least kind of see that I'm doing things. But there's so much more to that. There's a lot of growth to be hopefully had in that area. Do you find that this is a little practical question with hammering? How have you dealt with the physical toll on your body?
I try to do a lot of stretching. Before it was a bit harder on my body. I feel that now I've really like found a technique that works for me. But yeah, I'm not really like I don't really feel any like damage to my body yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to stretch a lot all the time. It's like something I do without thinking. I watch TV or I just try. Yes. Yeah, stretching. But I don't know what else I could do like more. I bought some like not wristbands, but like elastic things to put on your fingers and try to.
Is it like is it an opening stretch?
Yeah, opening. Yeah, try to work some muscles that don't work a lot normally.
That's a blacksmithing technique. They say if you have issues with like trigger finger and stuff like that, is oftentimes our closing muscles are much more developed. We're working a lot with this, but we don't work with this motion so much, and so these muscles back here can be underdeveloped. And I just put like a bunch of rubber bands around my fingers and do this thing, and it seems to help, soreness and stuff.
Do you have any issues with your?
I had issues due to bad technique. I would like to ask you about going to Brazil and studying in Brazil. I didn't get any kind of training. I think, the only training I really had was with Dave, and Dave never really. With Dave and I, it was much more of a conceptual conversation. It wasn't so much like here's technique or here's like a patterns that you can think about. There's obviously a whole topic to talk about hammering patterns and what that even means. But so for me, it was mostly self-taught, and I definitely did things wrong for the first couple of years. And so I had a lot of pain at first, and I would struggle with trigger finger. And I felt like what happened was as I got like just the act of swinging a hammer, as my muscles developed, it was like the muscles sort of insulated my joints. So the muscles kind of made up for the fact that, maybe I was being rough on my joints, but I built enough muscle to where the pain just kind of stopped. And I try to do the same thing with stretching and taking rests. And this entire week I've been totally away from the shop, which is giving my hands a great chance to rest, because I finished I've got 35 cymbals and hats and stuff ready for the Music City Drum Show coming up next week. And so it's just been a lot of like back-to-back hammering. And so I was definitely feeling the soreness. But yeah, technique is important. And Nikki Moon helped me with, I did a podcast for his Patreon, and he talked to me afterwards just about my anvil setup and how I had it on these really, this smaller base that wasn't as heavy. And just the ability for that base to sort of move as you're hitting, you're losing energy. It's kind of, it's coming out. And so I got I just built like a really much more robust base, and I got it like Tapcon into my concrete floor, just totally secure. And then ever since then, I got my anvil hardened too. And little things like that have just really helped, because I'm not losing. I'm just more of the energy is going into the bronze.
Directly, yeah.
I feel like that's helped a lot. But yeah, technique's important. It does feel like I'm going to make cymbals as long as I can swing a hammer, but you know,
Yeah.
if you're not careful, you can definitely destroy your body.
Yeah.
You know, have a
Especially
short
if you
career.
go play drums
Hmm.
after. It's kind of the same motion, but with a lighter
Yeah.
object in your hand, but it's more repetition. It's faster. So
Yep.
it's like you're always kind of doing this motion
Yep.
and like having impacts like in
Yeah.
your arms or shoulders. So yeah, it can be kind of hard. So I'm trying to like take a lot of rest.
Yeah.
I'm also slowly trying to build a mechanical hammer
Yeah. Yeah.
to kind of take off some of the impact of my arms. So like maybe
Yeah.
try to like start the shape on the hammer and then finish all the like the fine tuning with the like manually. But
Yeah.
I've never tried it yet. It's not finished, but
Yeah. I actually heard that I believe it was Bettis, maybe Matt Bettis, that was telling one of the other cymbal is well established now, but uh, he was telling that cymbal, if you want to have longevity, you need a mechanical hammer. Just period, you need one. And I think I heard maybe Paul Francis said the same thing at one point, which I know, in our industry, the hand hammered thing is a marketing thing. So we don't like the idea of like posting about the fact that we are using a mechanical hand. I'm having one made right now, sort of in the process of designing one as well for that same reason. It's, I want to be doing this in 20 years, 30 years,
Yeah. And
So,
yeah, so I guess even if we use mechanical hammers, it will still be more handmade than most of the handmade cymbals, from big
Right.
companies.
And I don't know that, I don't know how mine's going to actually work, but I don't know that I'll be able to fully from start to finish. It'll all be on the mechanical. I would imagine sort of the mechanical hammer will be to basically shape the cymbal.
Yeah.
And then from there, there's going to be hand hammering to sort of like we said earlier, just the idea of shaping the cymbal, and then from there you have the freedom to figure out sonically what you want it to sound like. I think that process would probably be by hand for the most part, for me at least. So yeah, so you're building it yourself.
Yeah, it was an old like riveting machine that someone gave me, so I'm modifying it, and so yeah, it's kind of a long process, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it won't work as I want it to, so maybe I'll just like buy something like already made or like design one from scratch.
Yeah.
Because I also work with a blacksmith from Montreal, and he helps me a lot. He helped me at the beginning with my anvils, and like he showed me some hammering techniques, like to work with metal. So, and ever since, when I have like metal projects, or like he made my handles too for my hammers. I go to him a lot. He has a lot of knowledge, like way more than I do about like metal work. So it's always good to have like an outside help.
Definitely. There's a guy in the States named Nick Downing. Have you ever seen Downing Arts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm now just kind of going to him. Obviously, we all kind of make our own hammers at the beginning. I had a ball peen hammer that I like use my metal grinder to just cut off the little peen, I guess, and then just with a sander just kind of shape the other, kind of get a dog, what do they call it, dog face hammer sort of vibe. But now I just go to him and he helps me a lot. Just kind of, he actually, I had seen cymbal hammers that kind of dipped in the front, sort of like curved. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, I wondered like, why is it curved? That doesn't make sense. But obviously as you're hitting, oftentimes we end up striking. So let's see if I can do this. So if like this is the face. Yeah. We oftentimes, as the hammer's coming down, we often strike right here. We don't strike it on the face. Mm-hmm. And so that idea of kind of curving it allows, as it's coming down, to sort of like hit where you want it. Yeah. Little things like that, I've got some hammers that have like, over time, they've sort of flattened just kind of at the bottom weird corner, like not where I'm trying to hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, he's helped a ton with that, and then found a place that heat treats metal, so I'm getting all my anvils hardened so that they're not just like slowly becoming like these craters. All the little things, man. I got a question for you. So Mangiello and I talked about tribute cymbals and how that's like a very popular thing, and people that all they do is tribute. So I know you do tribute series, but you do them as like a part of your ecosystem of the cymbals that you make. They're just, you have like some old K tributes.
Yeah.
So what is your thoughts about like tribute series, old K? I know this is like a huge topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me think.
Yeah.
Like at first I was kind of drawn towards like making tributes because I thought it was a way to like go get more people, like interest people in just listening to the cymbals and maybe sell more cymbals. It was more like I wouldn't say marketing, but like more publicity.
Yeah.
But eventually also because when I started making cymbals, I wasn't really, I didn't know anything about cymbal or cymbal sounds. So each time someone would bring me a cymbal like a complex dry cymbal, then I would try to imitate that sound, you know. So I did that a lot, trying to imitate, or sometimes it would be like custom orders. People would send me recordings from like Jimmy Cobb, and he says I want like this sound, this cymbal sound. So I would work a lot with them. Like it would be by email, so we would write back and forth, and I tried to know exactly what the person was hearing in the cymbal. So there was a lot of work of trying to like emulate the sound.
Yeah.
So then I tried to like take this, you know, I also do like a Tony Williams tribute.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, because I also worked on some cymbals from recording for clients, you know, like on custom orders. And I spent like months trying to get that sound. So like I felt like I could offer, like I could say like a tribute. I wouldn't say like it's a clone or something, because then, you know, it's never the same, because what you hear is a recording, and like even the same cymbal on different recordings sounds completely different. So it's like a tribute of what I hear. Like it's like my take on that sound, you know. It's like my version of the sound of what I hear, but also what I worked on with clients, with drummers. So yeah, I think it's like a really personal way of like showing like what you hear in these cymbals, because like old K is anything, you know. Like old K can mean like from 2000 or like the 90s or the 50s, you know. Like they've been doing cymbals for a while. So like,
I have to say, I asked this question because in the past I've done some videos and even had some like question answers where I've dogged on people that did clones and just kind of all they did was clones, and mainly my reasoning was because, you know, like I thought at the time like it could be an expedient way to get business, is just say, hey, this is like the clone of the Nefertiti ride.
mm-hmm.
And if you weren't doing that at the same time as developing your own voice as a maker, I felt like it kind of felt cheap to me. But I feel like I've kind of changed my mind. And it's funny because Mangiello and I talked about this, and we were both kind of dogging on it, like, yeah, these people that all they do is clones and da 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 da. And then Mangiello now is like, he has Eric Binder as one of his artists, and he traveled to Chicago and played all of Eric's old Ks, and now he's making an old K line. And it you know, we always, I feel like we have to have ideas and run with them to learn that maybe they aren't right, and so you kind of change your mind a little bit. But what you just said about I felt like what you said was perfect. The idea of you, Philippe, as an artist approaching a sound, and then like replicating that sound. I mean, that to me is something that I want to do. You know, it's something that I think is more a testament to you as a maker than it is what you're trying to copy, because it's like our favorite drummer playing, like coming out, like Mark Giuliana is my favorite drummer, or one of my favorite drummers, and he came out with his jazz quartet, and so it was him and his artistry approaching jazz, and so you have to kind of fit into the sonic spectrum that is that. And so yeah, all I have to say, I've sort of changed my mind on the whole idea of tributes and clones, and kind of see the value of it more, which is kind of why I wanted to ask you about that, and like what your approach was to it, because I see you'll post a Tony Williams tribute, but then you're also posting about your experimentation series, where it's just kind of the wild things that you come up with, and how those cymbals turn out, which I kind of think I think that's a really cool way of approaching it. It's kind of creating an ecosystem surrounding you as a maker, and what your ear goes towards. And when you say Tony Williams, like, to be honest, when you posted a 22 Tony Williams ride that was like 2,600 grams, I heard that video and I was like, that is the sound. Like I've heard a lot of people post like Tony Williams clone, whatever, but he got it like right on. It was heavier, which a lot of people think Tony's cymbals weren't that heavy, but they were,
Yeah, kind of heavy, like big stick and like low wash, and
right,
like really complex, like a shoulder crash.
Yes,
and like
there's almost like some dissonance built into that the crash, because it has a complexity that you wouldn't expect from a cymbal that heavy. It was really so I think like it can feel like you're in a cover band, like doing only like clones and tributes and stuff like that. But I feel if you can like not appropriate, it's not the word, but if you can like take in all the like the different elements, like acoustic elements, and try to make it your own, I think then you gain the right to call it a tribute or right. Yeah.
But I've asked questions about that too, not like to myself. It was kind of a dilemma for me to know if I wanted to do only like, I mean, they're all originals, but if I wanted to make like my own series or give them names that people recognize, or because like at the end of the day, it's just another cymbal. It's just another cymbal, and you can call it whatever you want. But I feel at this point it's just for people to be able to like understand what kind of sound it is.
Yep.
Because
it gives them a connecting point.
Yeah. It's just easier to because especially if you buy cymbals online, like you hear videos, it's hard to really understand like and like feel how the cymbal really sounds like, how it when you play it, when you hear it in a room. So yes, if you have like these reference points, like it's supposed to sound like that, or it has the same type of like sonic characteristic, it can help a bit. But I think at the end it's just another cymbal. That's maybe
at the end. At the end of it, it's still, the cymbal still has to deliver. So you can, I mean, there are definitely people, definitely not to name names, there are definitely people out there that are hardcore trying to capitalize on the fact that they're calling it the such and such cymbal, or the such and such tribute clone, whatever. And it feels, and then to me, I hear those cymbals or even try them in person, and I'm like, I don't know that that actually nails it. And so it can be, just like in anything in business, it can be a little bit deceiving. But at the end of the day, if you're able to deliver, if like you're able to capture that sound, then it's like, I guess at the end of the day, the point is do whatever you want. You know what I mean? And actually mean it. So if you're going to call it the whatever clone, whatever tribute, then like you said, you spend months researching what that cymbal did, and you listen to recordings, and I'm sure you like just scoured the internet to find any kind of interviews about what that cymbal was like,
and pictures also, and like
pictures,
all angles of the cymbal to like try to see see it as well.
Yes, try to capture the side view, so like you can see what's the shape looking like,
Profile.
you know. Yeah, it's that to me is like a cool way of going about it. And yeah, I personally I struggle with that because I want to. There are definitely sounds like I love Bill Stewart's ride sounds. I'm a huge fan. Um, and I made a video called the Bill Stewart ride sound, and that video still to this day is the best, like analytics wise, the best YouTube video I ever did. And I was like, that's interesting. If I did this again, but I'm like almost as an exercise trying to force myself not to go down that path and try to see if there's a way, I don't know, a way to marry the idea of having, you know, aiming after certain vibes and certain sounds, but then also developing your own voice. I think those two things are important for any kind of artist that's approaching music or cymbal making, you know.
Well, I think even if you go in a certain direction, like of doing clones and tributes, you'll still get your sound, you know. I think like even if I got really close to the cymbal, you know, like to the Tony ride, I still get my sound, you know. I don't think it's not like I put in like the hammering pattern in a machine, in a computer, and then it hammered on a CNC machine. So like I think you will always get like your feel, your because you hammer, like you hit the cymbal yourself. So I think there's always a part of like, it's like, I think you'll always feel the personality of the maker in the cymbals. Yeah.
And it's true that there's quite a few drummers that have really staked their claim in, you know, I am a jazz drummer. I think Eric Binder is a really good example of this. Is like he is very classic in the way that he approaches the drum set, and he listens to music from the 20s and 30s, and you know, none of us are gonna like dog him for like, well, why aren't you unique, man? Like, why aren't you doing your thing? No, we're actually like, I look at his music and his artistry, and I appreciate that he cares about that era, and
What
he cares about what he does. He's serious about it. He does it with all of his energy, and then throughout the whole thing, you still feel like it's him. You know, he still does have a voice, even though he's not doing necessarily what everybody else is doing, because everybody's onto this more exploratory kind of hip hop, trap, sort of drunken feel. Like that's where things really. There's a ton of people in that world. You know, who's playing like classic swing music these days? You know, so I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to whatever you're going to do, just do it with intention and do it to the best of your ability, you know. And if you do that, then you will develop your voice. There's an author I love that has this quote. He goes, anyone who cares about being authentic will never truly be original. Whereas if you simply just try to tell the truth, 9 times out of 10, you will become original without ever having noticed it. And I love that. And just from an artistic standpoint, that kind of method of just approaching whatever is true, like whatever your artistry is, be true to that. And 9 times out of 10, just don't even care about like being original. You know, that'll come.
Yeah, it's true. I realized over the time, you know, like, you know, again with cymbal making, but every time I really tried to like, not like follow a certain trend or something, it would work a bit, but you know, people would be only interested like in a, you know, they would like and comment, and that's it, you know. Nobody would be more interested than that. But every time I would, you know, like just do what I want to do, like do my sound, do my cymbals and post them, I would always get better reaction than when I'm trying to like do something that's hip or you know, cool.
Right.
So yeah, so I feel there's like hope in you know, like just following, you know, just following my path, following what I want to do. And then if I show it to someone, you know, I guess the work in itself will change a bit because, you know, Charles will bring his personality into it, and it will
Yeah.
evolve in that way. So
Right.
try not to like control every aspect of it, and make sure like it follows like certain rules or certain trends. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe just fall. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're every time I'm serious when I say like I'm not blowing smoke. When I've played your cymbals, there is something uniquely you in them that I've not heard in any other cymbal, and that goes for all the other makers that I've gotten a chance to check out their work. Is um, we kind of all bring something different to the table, and I think my goal, even in this podcast and even in general, is I would love for people to get out of the brand loyalty mentality where they only play one brand and they think like, well, for me it was Sabian. It was Sabian, and then it was Bosphorus, and that was, I just only bought those cymbals, and it wasn't for any reason other than I liked the idea of being able to say I'm a Sabian guy, or I'm a and I think it would be awesome if, as a drumming community, if we kind of opened our eyes to the fact that you're going to have a unique sound with your cymbals that no one else can get. Mangiello is going to have his unique sound. Dave's going to have his unique sound. I'm going to have my unique sound, and all of us and so if you love this art form, if you love cymbals, then like start collecting, you know what I mean? Like start putting together palettes of colors. Like I really don't think that I'm not interested in just trying to get people to be very loyal to my cymbals only. I love the fact that this community is growing and it's small enough to where you can be a part of something that's pretty unique and get something that is handmade from someone that you can actually email with, and you can talk to them about what you want, and then you can sort of build and collect like the colors that you have, and then you can use that to be inspired, because like we do one half of the thing, the other half is the customer taking that cymbal and then putting it into their music and playing, and it becomes like Dave says, it becomes an entirely different thing once it leaves our shop. It takes on an entirely new life after the fact. So
sometimes clients bring back cymbals, like old cymbals I made for them, I don't know, like a year or 2-3 years ago, and it can be hard to like remember that I made the cymbals. I don't remember. I don't remember it. It's like it became this new entity, and it's like it has a voice of its own. And like I know I made it because I stamped it, but when I play it, it's completely new to me. So
interesting.
It's like, it's really fun to hear your old cymbals, because it's always surprising, because it's like they're new for you. You're not used to them. They have like their personality. So like even if in your shop, if I have like, I don't know, 30 cymbals, I know all of them. I know all of their sounds. And then like if a client comes, I realize like the client likes this type of sounds, like this type of sound, I can get all the cymbals that fit. But then once they're gone, and they like also they start to age and they get played and they get dirt on them, then they completely change, and like it's really fun. Like
there's such a high level of devotion to that set that you have in your shop at any given time. But you're right, once it leaves, it's like out of sight, out of mind. It leaves too, which So do you have anything coming up that you're excited about? Any projects, certain cymbals you're excited to unveil, or anything that you got going on?
Well, at the moment, my big projects is just like the experimentation series. It's not like a project in itself. I mean, it's just a way for me to like try new stuff. So I guess I'll just bring in more new sounds, new experimentation. I'm just trying to get out of my comfort zone, but just trying to like to break a bit my conceptions of cymbal making and cymbal sounds, because I feel like what brought me to cymbal making in the first place was the limitless possibilities, but I found that over time I kind of like limited myself to what I knew would sell, what I knew sounded good already. So, you know, I could have just stick with that, but I don't know, for me, it's refreshing to just start something new. Again, and it's personal. I do it mostly for me, but I think in the end, it will be like beneficial to drummers, because I will find new sounds that, you know, haven't been explored before.
Right.
So yeah, also, you know, I'm really taking my time. I've come out of a burnout in like the last 2 months, and it's been like really like a long road to just like get back working and like managing all the other stuff, you know, in my life.
Yeah, you feeling refreshed with that?
Yeah, like the new series, you mean, or
just coming out of that phase of burnout, are you feeling refreshed and like you have a lot of motivation moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it comes kind of in waves, but I feel like I have more, like I'm trying not to put too much pressure on like performing and like producing a lot of cymbals and selling. I'm trying to just, you know, like just get in my zone and trying to get my sound and be authentic, but like, you know, without trying to think about it too much, and like I'm trying to take the time to do what needs to be done. You know, before I was a bit like all over the place and like doing like 5 things at the same time, and like getting a bit lost. So like, you know, now I'm trying to train my friend, train Charles to like help me with the cymbal. So I'm, you know, take time with him, you know, like it's part of the process, like to train him. So I'm not trying to like go fast with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I don't have like anything too big for the moment, because I'm just trying to get back to it.
Yeah. So your website is pgbartisancymbals.com. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, like definitely check out the website. You keep I guess you keep like a stock of cymbals, just whatever you have available up with videos and stuff like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to upload a few cymbals every now and then to keep it fresh.
Yep. Cool. Man, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I had a great time. You're a pleasure to talk to. And also, I feel like we're very, very similar in a lot of ways. It's kind of wild. It's a joy to talk to all the cymbal makers, kind of get a little look into their life and how they got started into this art form. And like, I definitely want to keep in touch.
Realize you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. There are others around. There's only one in Canada, though. Yeah.
That's real weird.
Yeah, there it is. Well, guys, thank you for listening. This has been the Reverie podcast. Catch you next time.
Ciao. Bye-bye.